ॐ क्रीं 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 हूं हूं ह्रीं ह्रीं दक्षिणे कालिके क्रीं 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 हूं हूं ह्रीं ह्रीं स्वाहा।
धन्वये नमः।
ॐ तारायै नमः।
करुणवल्लर्यै नमः।
ॐ क्षीररूपायै नमः।
धर्यै नमः।
ॐ श्यामायै नमः।
धनुक्षीणनाय नमः।
ॐ पयोधरायै नमः। ॐ ब्रह्मरूपिण्यै नमः। ॐ वागीश्वर्यै नमः। ॐ योगरूपायै नमः। ॐ योगिन्यै नमः। ॐ प्रतिपदायै नमः।
ॐ प्रणतक्लेशनाशिन्यै नमः।
ॐ प्रभावत्यै नमः।
ॐ गुणवत्यै नमः।
ॐ गणमात्रे नमः।
ॐ गुह्येश्वर्यै नमः।
ॐ नमः।
ॐ भूतिदायै नमः।
ॐ भूत्यै नमः।
ॐ भूतिदायित्रे नमः।
ॐ भैरव्यै नमः।
ॐ भैरवाचारनिरतायै नमः।
ॐ भूतसेवितायै नमः। ॐ अट्टाटहासनिरतायै नमः। ॐ मलिनाम्बरधारिण्यै नमः। ॐ वृद्धायै नमः। ॐ विरूपायै नमः। ॐ विधवायै नमः।
सर्वलोकवशङ्कर्यै नमः।
ॐ वेदविद्यायै नमः।
ॐ महापूज्यायै नमः।
ॐ भक्ताद्वेष्यै नमः।
भयङ्कर्यै नमः।
ॐ स्तम्भरूपायै नमः।
स्तम्भिन्यै नमः। महासिद्धखण्डायै नमः।
ॐ मकारप्रियायै नमः।
मानरूपायै नमः।
ॐ महेश्यै नमः।
महोल्लासिन्यै नमः।
ॐ लास्यलीलालयाङ्ग्यै नमः। प्रसख्यसाहिने नमो वयं वै श्रवणाय कूर्महे तदे कामकामाय भक्त्यं कामेश्वरो वै।
Sri Matre Namaha. Namaskaram everyone, happy Thai Pongal, and welcome back to our Sacred Rites and Rituals of Sanatana Dharma Learning Series, which is a joint presentation by Sri Vidya Temple Society of Rochester, New York, USA, and Ashtanga Yoga Mandir of Sri Lanka. These lectures are conducted by Sri Chaitanananda, affectionately known as Ayya. Ayya is the founder and Pidabadi of Sri Vidya Temple. Both Ayya and Amma, Srimati Jnanamba, have dedicated their lives to the noble mission of preserving and spreading the knowledge of Devi worship and the rich tradition of Saivai Bhakti. A few housekeeping reminders before we begin today's session. Please use the question form to share any questions you might have pertaining to the content discussed. For those viewing our live stream, our questions form can be also found on our webpage, which is srividya.org/aym-lectures. At this time, we will hand it over to Ayya.
Namaskaram. Happy Makar Sankranti to everyone. Hamsas Sivasoham Hamsaha Hasakafrem Hasakshamalavarayum Hasaum Sahakshamalavarayim Sahau Swarupanirupana Hetave Swagurave Sri Annapurnambika Sameda Sri Amartanandanada Saraswati Mahapattaraka Mama Sri Guru Sri Padukam Pujayami Tarpajami Namaha. I prostrate in front of my esteemed Sri Guru, Srila Sri Amartanandanada Saraswati of Devipuram, India, and implore that he sit on my open heart lotus and speak through me. We have embarked on the discussion about yantras. Now we saw that yantras, there are yantras and the deities There are yantras associated with the architecture of a temple, yantras associated with astrology, yantras associated with numerology, and so on and so forth. These yantras, we came up to a point in the last few weeks, what materials to use and especially what kind of metals to choose for these yantras. And we also learned that once you have decided to draw a yantra yourself, or have a competent authority draw them, you must insist that they choose in consultation with the Panchankam, the proper time, the proper day, proper month, and the hora and the nakshatram and the tidhi, and set about doing it. And once you start doing a yantra, you must not stop. In the material, if there is a tear or inadvertently you have made a hole, the material has to be discarded in running water and you have to start afresh. Now, there are some agamas that tell you you should not use an iron scribe, a steel scribe to draw the yantra or emboss the yantra. There are other agamas that will tell you that you can only use steel. I made a study of this, and it appears that if it is going to be a prayoga yantra for a specific purpose for a specific individual, then that means it is purely tantric. Yantras are tantric anyway. And these prayoga yantras can be drawn with a scribe which has a steel tip. Otherwise, bronze or panchalokam or ashtalokam or a copper scribe is to be used, or a gold or a silver scribe. Now, we also saw an interesting bit of information where they use the various materials to purify the yantra. If we can please go to the slides that are pertinent to this. The purification and the cleaning of the yantra has to take place. And interestingly, see, the yantra will be embodied with mantras. This is only after drawing the yantra. Then the yantra will be energized to be powerful. Once this is done, Ainkayam applied to the yantra. Ainkayam is a mixture of Vasambu root. Now, I could not find the English equivalent for that, but that is the botanical name, Acorus calamus. It's sometimes called the sweet flag. Then omum seeds, karam seeds, ulli, garlic, mustard and asafoetida. Now, Vasambu root, Acorus calamus, has been used from time immemorial in Siddha and Ayurvedic medicine and other native forms of native medicine that you see being practiced all over, probably in all the states of India. Sri Lanka, Malaysia, and other places, Indonesia and other places. That Vasambu has curative properties. It's supposed to control blood pressure. Now, carom seeds, this will equalize and mute the gaseous products that are produced because of the food that we eat in the alimentary canal. That means from the stomach to the ileum, duodenum, and the large intestine, all parts of it. And therefore, concentration is now not a problem. The next one is garlic. That is a very interesting bit of information, because in the Vaidika karmas that we have learned, that people have practiced, garlic and onion are kept away. Garlic has a very pungent odor. And it is interesting to know that garlic was used extensively. Major active components in garlic are, there are organosulfur compounds such as diallyl thiosulfonate. This is called by the generic name allicin. Diallyl sulfide, DAS. Diallyl disulfide, DADS. Diallyl trisulfide, DATS. Azone, allyl, cysteine, sac-allyl, cysteine sulfoxide, and so on and so forth. These materials, these compounds, have been used also from time immemorial, both in Europe, in China, and in the Indian subcontinent, not only for medications. It has been used as a protection, especially jealousy. If you feel that there is grina directed at you, then the use of garlic is there. And cleaning the yantra with this aingayam mixture of these things, I suspect, is to keep the influences of jealousy and anger and aversion and things like that away from the yantra itself. Because you do not want the yantra or anything that you place under a deity where the public is coming to worship, or you and your family are worshipping. You do not want any negative influences emanating from there. And these are very subtle. And from a long time, in parts of Austria and Romania, they had a belief that there were vampires, and if you hung this garlic pods around the house, that they would be kept away. And even now in the Caribbean, in Cuba, and in the Caribbean islands, the parents use garlic as a protection against evil spirits, whatever they may be. And also, if you use garlic, it's going to prevent any of the biowaves There's no other way of calling it. The vibe is emanating from someone or group of people who are bent on impeding anything that you are doing in spirituality. For example, if you are trying to build a temple and you want a perfect yantra, these things can be influenced. So I suspect that using the garlic is to prevent negative influences from reaching the yantra. Now, we also saw that if you draw the yantra, at least according to Sri Vidya and the Sri Yantra, which is the mother of all yantras and the queen of all yantras, that is called a Kailasa Prastara. If the lines and the triangles and the lotuses are embossed, then it is called Bhuprastara. If the square Sri Yantra, which is always the case, the side of the Sri Yantra is 25% of the projection from ground level, then it is called the Parsva Meru. If it is 50% of the side, then it is called Ardha Meru, half. If it is a full projection, then it is called Purna Meru. Now, very often, the way these workshops are calibrated, you will find that none of them are actually either full, they are not accurate to the measurement. So remember, if you move away from the ideal, you are going to dilute the effect. So now, the yantra has been cleaned. Now, if you are going to do the yantra on a neutral day, like Wednesday, if you want Guruvaram, Thursday, or if you want Friday, Shukravaram, you will choose Buddha Hora for a Wednesday, Guru Hora for a Thursday, and Shukra Hora for a Friday. When you commence to do the yantra, when you start to draw the yantra, it's very important that this is to be followed. And after the cleaning of the yantra, and if you are going to copy the yantra from some other source, this is very important. Do not have a picture of the yantra in front of you and copy it, looking at it and then drawing, looking at it and drawing. You must memorize the yantra completely and it must come out of your memory. So you can imagine, if you have to draw, for example, the Varaha yantra, what a complicated yantra that is going to be. And you have to memorize the aksharas, the bija aksharas, the lines, the lotuses, everything. And you must know exactly where every bija akshara goes. And the aksharas have to be absolutely clean and neat. Say, for instance, if you are going to write Om in Tamil, and you are going to inscribe a bija akshara within that Om, it must not touch any other sides, the bija akshara. It has to be precise. So, as you can see, it is not an easy process. And every time you make a compromise and keep going, you are reducing the power that you actually want the yantra to project. And once with all these precautions taken and you have completed the yantra, it has to be washed. Because remember, you have infused it with these 5 protective materials. In some cases, they wait until the yantra is drawn, then clean it, apply these protective materials. But I think it makes more sense to clean the plate first and then commence drawing the yantra. Now, it is a very interesting thing. In the ancient world, we did not have electronic presses or electric presses or anything like that, or etching instruments or tools. So they had to do everything by hand. And of necessity, the thickness of the material will come into play. Now, if the material is too thick, you won't be able to etch anything on it. And something as complex as the Sri Chakram can be cumbersome to draw. So you have to, in the old temples, they have chosen it carefully. Some of the yantras are sturdy. In some cases, because of various movements when they were trying to repair the temple for a Punaruddharana Kumbhabhishekam and things like that, the yantras have to be taken out and washed and worshipped again before they are placed inside. Mula Mantra Japam, at least at 10,008, have to be infused into the yantra. Now, let us say for something like Rajamadangi, 120 odd syllables. How long it is going to take? So in most temples, I have noticed, the yantra puja is going to be completed on the day of the Kumbhabhishekam and it is placed. So it is given to a gentleman or a lady or anyone known as an Uttama Adhikari. One who is fully capable of doing the mantra japam with the proper concentration and with the proper attendant pujas. So an Uttama Adhikari. Now once the mantra japam has been completed, on the average it will take about 5 years to do the japam, mantra japam for the yantram. You can place it after maybe 108 iterations, but you will have to work 10 times as hard to bring the power out of the yantra. In the SVTS temple, Sri Rajarajeswari Temple, we found an Uttama Adhikari who was an embodiment of love and affection. And he performed the japam for the Sri Chakram that is under the Devi 25 lakh times and performed the required 10% homam, 10% tarpanam, 10% marjanam, 10% annadana. And having given the appropriate balidanams to the devatas, that yantra was taken and placed under the Devi. Can we please go to the video of the yantra sthavanam under Subramanya Vigraham? Now, directly underneath the Murti, not only the yantra of that particular Murti is placed, there are other things that come. Now you see in front of you you see the green lines approaching the Murti. Those are mantric sounds chanted by the priests or upasakas around as the Pradishtavana is going to go in. It just tells you how it begins to activate. Now, beneath the idol is a Subramanya Yantra. It's also called a Sadakshara Yantra. Then, immediately below that is the Gayatri Yantra, which is the basis of all the beginning of all the Vedas. So the Gayatri Yantra is to be given pride of place, and somebody would have had to do japam of that Gayatri Yantra. Then beneath that is Sri Yantra Stavanam. In any of these temples, any temple, the Sri Yantra is placed there because that is the king of the Yantras. And that's the one that actually gives the beginning kick. Then beneath the Sri Yantra, Shankha. There is a Shankha Stapanam. Not only is a conch place, but there is a particular yantra also associated with it that is placed beneath it. Kurmam. Then there are in the four corners, Kurma Stapanam, silver. Tortoises made of silver are placed there. Then Ratna Stapanam, the 9 gemstones representing each of the 9 planets, the planetary forces, each of those gem quality. Now, I don't know whether any of you are aware that when the gems are sold, there are actually 4 qualities in descending order. The ones that are used for jewelry are at the top, that is gem quality. Then there's a second, a third, and a fourth one. Usually, when they go to build a house, these 9 gemstones are placed there and they'll give you either the third or fourth quality. Remember, you move away from the ideal, the effect is going to be diluted. But in a temple, it is always better that you have gem quality. It's also called AR quality, that is analytical reagent quality. Then, after the Ratna Stapanam, Devata Stapanam. What is this Devata Stapanam? This Devata Stapanam, now in the Sri Yantra, in the Sri Vidya Temple, we used to have in 33 Park Circle 16 Banalingams from black all the way to white, representing the Nityakala Devis that are surrounding the Devi in the 16-petal lotus and in the triangle. Now those Shivalingams are underneath, beneath the Devi, they have been placed there. And also, there used to be a gentleman who used to come regularly from Ithaca and beyond, Cornell. He happened to be from Kashmir. Rather, his parents were there. So on one vacation when he went, I asked him to find the best shaligramam that you can get and bring it here. Because there is a Narayana Temple in Srinagar. And he went there and he remembered, because in front of Narayana, there was a whole tray full of saligramams. And he gently asked the priest, my guru has asked me to bring a saligramam. Can you give me one? Can you select one? He went inside and brought the whole tray, held it in front of the student and told him, you pick one. Because the Lord wants to go there. And he picked one, and this saligramam had Swarna Rekha. That means there were 3 gold lines on it. And it was classed as a Sanātana Gopala. And I had no idea what it was because I have no knowledge of what the Vaishnavite traditions are. I placed it along with the Nityakala Devi Banalingams in front of the Sri Chakrameru, and when doing Abhishekam daily, I would pour a Uddrini or 3 Uddrinis full of water over it. And we thought it was coincidence. 5 young ladies who were married, newly married, got pregnant one after the other. And when Guruji visited, he looked at it and he said, you're adding to the population explosion of the world. He has to go under the Devi. And so he was placed under the Devi, and he stopped his mischief, so to speak. Now in 1998, when the Devi was moved from Park Circle to the present location, obviously we had to uproot her from her base and take all the other Yantra Sthapanas, the Devata Sthapanas, all of those, and bring it along and install it in the new temple. The saligramam must have been out for all of 6 hours before it went under the Devi. And another 5 ladies got pregnant during that time. So, such devatas are to be placed in that layer, Devata Sthapanam. Then there is something called Dravya Sthapanam. Rare herbs and other things that are brought are placed underneath this. And beneath all of this, very often there is Rasa Sthapanam, which is mercury. It's placed, a field of mercury is required. And you will see, when the mantra is being chanted, the lines come, the dotted lines come all the way. If we can play the video, they will see it. See, each of those layers is now being built up, one after the other. And the Subramanya Murti is placed, and the mantras are being chanted. And when it hits the yantra beneath Subramanya, you will see the yantra is reacting. The energy is being formatted there. And then the mantra continuing is going to penetrate all the layers that are there. The Bindusthanas of all the layers that are there. And finally, hit the rasam. And the rasam actually pulls the mantrottarana into itself. So it becomes quite powerful. This is the way it is to be done. And before the temple is to be built, this is just preparation for the Mula Murti and other Murtis too that are there. In the outer wall of the temple, there is something called Garbha Nyasam that has to be performed. This Garbha Nyasam also entails gem quality gemstones, various materials, and various types of puja, right? Grama Shanti, Sthana Shanti, Vastu Shanti, all those things are done. It's a huge process. And these yantras are now placed underneath each of the deities that are there. An ideal would be what we have shown, but very often it will stop with the yantra, the deity, Gayatri Yantra, Sri Yantra. These are for the subsidiary deities. The main deity, of course, you will have to do your best. Otherwise, the energy will not be there. The divinity that you feel in the Sri Rajarajeswari Peetham as you walk into the sanctum through those two gold-colored doors, the energy that you feel is because of the yantra japam that has been done, mantra japam done to the yantras. So now, we saw that the purificatory materials, we stopped at garlic. Beyond garlic, there is something called mustard and asafoetida. Asafoetida is called perungayam. Those are also mixed and it has to be wiped and cleaned. After the yantra has been drawn properly, once the yantra has been completed, you have to wash it and offer dhupa, deepa, naivedyam, water, betel leaves, and maybe betel nuts and a banana or a couple of bananas, and chant the mantras to energize the yantra. If it is a Sri Yantra, you will chant Panchadasakshari. That is the ideal one. If all the practitioners in that temple up to that point are Shodasi Upasakas, then Shodasi. But Panchadasakshari has to be chanted. And in the Mahashodasi, Sutta Panchadasakshari is embedded. So the Shodasi is also allowed. You have to chant the thing, and on an appointed day, the Stapanam, once it has been performed, Ashtagandham is to be applied. Do we know where the Ashtabandhanam and Ashtagandham slides are, please? If you can find them, please project them. The Ashtagandham. These are 9 types of perfume, naturally perfumed products that need to be used to anoint the yantra. And remember, once the engraving is done, Ashtagandham is applied to the yantra. Ashtagandham is a mixture of the following ingredients. Punuhu, civet oil. Do we have a slide of the particular animal that produces this? This is the animal. In India, I'm told these animals are extinct because they have been exploited to such an extent. Where you can get punuhu is from Indonesia. See the nether side of the cat. From the thigh muscles, an oily substance exudes. And it must be kind of an irritant to the animal because it will continuously keep rubbing its thigh muscles against the cage where it is kept. And they collect this waxy stuff, oily waxy stuff from the cage metals, and that is purified. This is civet oil, it's perfumed. Next one, please. We go back to the Ashtagandham. Kasturi, musk. Now this comes from a deer. Do we have a slide of that animal? If we do, please project that so that the people, participants can take a look at it and know what it is. Kasturi is from a deer, and like the civet cat, Kasturi deer are no more found in India. They have been exploited. This also comes now, some of it from Indonesia, the others from the Middle East. This is the Kasturi man. And there is a gland around its navel. So unlike the civet, this one, to take the gland, the animal has to die. In the old days, when the rishis went around, they would find one or two dead animals on the, on the forest floor, and they picked it. But no, these days you have to shoot them to get it. And there's dosha, because the suffering that it undergoes when it is shot will now attach itself to the kasturi, and you have to work that out. That is one of the reasons why extensive japam is done. Next one, please. We'll go back to the list. Gorojana. Now, it says purified ox bezoar. Can you go and show that? It's actually a cow. The soft skin that is underneath its chin and entering its, ending up, it is chest muscles. There's a soft skin, loose skin. It comes from there. Again, the animal has to die before you can get it. And this is a finished product that you are seeing. And I suspect that this is not the purified stuff. This is not the pure stuff. The pure stuff will not be this dark. They have added kavi to it. Please go back to there. Then, attar, flower petal oil, chandanam, sandalwood. Now, picture a distilling flask. I don't know whether any one of you can remember what a distilling flask looks like. It is a pot with a long tube. And with a stopper on top where you can add material. This is placed on a tripod with a Bunsen burner at the bottom. And chosen flower petals like rose and even rose. There's a particular type of rose that grows in India. I haven't seen it anywhere else. It is called paneer rose. That is perfumed, heavily perfumed. Then champaka flowers and sandalwood oil are poured in to about, I would say, half a cup of ethyl alcohol. The idea is for these things to soak in there and remain. After 3 days of soaking, you light the Bunsen burner, close the stopper, and place a beaker at the end of the tube, the tubular portion of the distillation flask. Slow burner, very low flame. And the perfume from this will evaporate and come and drip drop by drop into the beaker. That is attar. You have to be very careful in this respect. Most of the perfumes these days, if you look at the list, this is the distillation flask. If you look at what is going on in there, they will add if you look at the ingredients of most of the perfumes, you will find skunk oil is added. You cannot use that. So you will have to carefully choose. So, I cannot emphasize enough what amount of care should be taken when you're going to embark on a very complex process of drawing a yantra and then preparing it for puja. It's not something you take lightly. Otherwise, you will have to find a very competent authority to get it made. The yantras that we have in our temple, most of them, the Nityakala Devi yantras that you see, the yantra that is beneath the Devi, all of them were made by an upasaka who could count 14 generations of Sri Vidya upasakas in his family. He is no more. His son is no more. His grandson is there. He was called Swami T. Murugabhushana, and he made these yantras. Now let me stop here. Go to the Ashtagandham. Let me finish that list. 6 is edible camphor. I don't need to tell you about that. You know that is raw camphor that is used in food articles like laddus and things like that. You have to add particular amount, a very little amount to that. Then Javvad, herbal perfume, mixture of fragrant herbs, spices and flowers. There are 2 or 3 varieties. That is one called, I don't know about other places, but I think in Bangalore and Chennai, you can buy what is called Sarvodaya Javvad. That's the best brand. There's another one called Andavar Javvad, and a third one called Madhura Javvad. This Sarvodaya is the purest form that I have found. Then Arakaja. It's a black paste made of camphor, lotus seeds and black kumkum. I wonder how they make black kumkum, because there's no way they can get it with the turmeric and the lime. So I'm sure some other ingredient must be added. These things are the ones that you have to apply to the yantra. Now, if you have finished the yantra, let us say by 5 o'clock in the evening, you wash it, offer the naivedyam, apply this and leave it. Cover it with a silk cloth and leave it. Then the next day, you get up and do the same thing. You do the rest of the pujas. And at least 108 mantras of the Mula mantras of the deity whose yantra you have drawn, you have to chant. We'll stop here today and go to the questions, please.
Yeah, there are a lot of questions coming in. We will take a few today. So one of the questions was in the Sri Chakra Bhupuram, in the 4 corners, you have Surya, Ganapati, Shiva, and Narayana. So this resembles the Shakti Panchayatana with Devi in the center. The question is basically, does it mean that Lalita's function is that of Tirodhana, given that she is at the center? Or, I mean, stated differently, how do you interpret this particular arrangement of the deities?
I don't believe that they have this function. Those are at the foot of Devi's bed, the seat that she is seated on. In the seat that she is seated on, there is Brahma, Brahmamaya, Vishtumaya, Rudramaya, Ishwaramaya, and Sadasivamaya. These are the 5 Srishti, Sthiti, Laya, Tirodhana, Anugraha that are there. These are there just to show the, this is actually exactly what you call Shakti Panchayatanam. The deity, the central deity is Shakti. There is, conversely, you will find Shiva Panchayatanam also. Now, if you go to the Kamakotishwara temple on Hanuman Ghat in Kasi, you will find this arrangement. The temple was built by Mahaperiyava at the instruction of Mahaperiyava, and it is built as a Shiva Panchayatanam. So most deities, whatever that you call, Ganapati Panchayatanam is there, Subramanya Panchayatanam is there. So that is just a vyuham, an arrangement. Now, what is the other part of the question?
I think the assignment of these 5 functions of Shrishti, Sthiti, etc. to the Panchayatanam, whether that is accurate. I think it's not. I think that's what you're saying.
It is not.
Okay. Yes, yeah. I think that explains that answers the question. Another question, is in many homes, there are many deities, many vigrahams, say Ganapati, Shiva, Murugan, and there may be many yantras also, which have been accumulated, and they may not have undergone any pratishtapana, the way that you described. So what does a householder do in that scenario?
Now, for instance, whether it is a house or a temple, if you go on increasing the number of deities, you're increasing your workload. At the same time, you're dispersing the energies that you can bring to bear on any one deity. In Tamil, they say, Ondraipudi Urudipadu, hold on to one thing and become firm in it. If you keep adding deities, of course, you are going to have this difficulty and this question at the back of your mind, how am I going to take care of all of these things? But at the same time, let me tell you, when they talk about having a deity in the house, they say Anguli Matre. It should not, the first line that you see here, the first line, it should be from there to the first line. The deity, they say, should not be larger than that. If it is larger than that, then they used to say that it should go to a temple. That is why in traditional Brahmin households, if you go and see, that they have a throne, Simhasanam, with a kodai and things like that, with an umbrella and all that. And the main deity of the family sits there. And kuti deities are all over the place. And the kuti deities are easy to get. Therefore, they keep adding them. And subsequently, when the person, whether it is a lady or the gentleman who has taken care of it with such love and such intensity, the children are not interested invariably. And they have to now find a place to keep them. Otherwise, it is said that the deities that are there will curse the family. If you have come to the Sri Vidya Temple, if you look at the Meru, on the base of the Meru, towards the corner that faces the Shivalingam in the temple, you will find a silver-colored Meru. That's a silver Meru. It was worshipped by an 85-year-old lady all her life. After she lost her husband, she still continued to do the puja. She took out all her ornaments, which were glittering with diamonds, and made a nice triangular pendant and then placed it on the Meru. And the children were not interested. They said, we can't take care of this. So while she was alive, she asked her son to bring her to the temple and she left it there because she said at least 3 times a day she will get fed. So you have to avoid things like that. So be intelligent. If you increase the clutter in your shrine room, focus is going to be scattered. It's going to go all over the place.
Yeah, is it all right to keep a yantra in the home if it has not been, you've not gone through the process of doing mantra japam and installing the deity, is it okay to just keep it in the home?
The first instance is you have to find out from where that yantra came. If it came from a upasaka like Swami Murugabhushanam, you know that it had been worshipped, right? But if it has come from just a commercial place, you go there, you find it on the shelf and you ask them, can I buy this? They'll charge you some money and you take time. You have no idea where it came from. For those, at least the Mula Mantram of the deity that it belongs to has to be chanted 108 times minimum before you place it.
If someone has different yantras, again, if you receive a lot of yantras over the course of time, is it okay to stack them, is the question.
Yes. But the top of the stack must be Sri Chakram. All the others can be subsidiary. If someone has different yantras that we receive over course of time, like Navagraha, Kubera, Ganapati, Bala, Sri Yantra, can we stack them on each other? That means for the Sri Yantra, all the other yantras have become Yantra Stapana. You can, there's no problem. But you must occasionally take them out and clean them and then stack them back in the same place.
Yeah, the illustration we had of the Shanmukha Vigraham, does it really matter what Vigraham?
It does not.
What is the form of the deity?
It does not. That was just given there as an example. When that one was made by one of our young men here, that particular graphic was made just so that I could explain Yantra Puja. We had a Yantra Puja workshop in the temple some 2 years ago, I believe. And this was a graphic that was introduced there to explain this. So it does not matter. This was just a convenient image that we took.
So just extending that question, like let us say we had a Shanmukha Yantra, but the idol on top was, say, Ganapati or some other idol. Would the energy still be that of Shanmukha? Does the form of the deity matter at all? I think that is the question.
Yeah, but it is there. Ultimately, it is a form of the Devi. It is Shakti. So even if you have stacks of yantras underneath Ganapati or say Shivalingam, place a Sri Yantra underneath it. Make sure that it does not have any Bijaksharas, because if you have children in the house and all that, it is supposed to, it's a very strict adherence to the rules if the Bijas are there.
That was one more question. Maybe we can stop with that.
Yes.
What is the difference between a yantra with Bijaksharas and one without?
The yantras with Bijaksharas are said to be enlivened in the Bijaksharas by the deities that are there in the petals. Now, not only on the petals, on the triangles in the corners and all that. If you look at the diagram that is there, one is without any Bijaksharas, the other one is with Bijaksharas. And those deities insist that proper worship to them has to be done every day. Whether you have time or not is not the problem. If you bring them with Bijas, then you have to make sure that the worship of each of those Bijaksharas is done. Each of the deities that is pointing to the particular, each of the Bijaksharas that is pointing to a particular deity, that deity's puja has to be done. Okay. And can we show the slide? Now, let us just take one lotus or one triangle. In each of them, there is a deity and its retinue, parivaram. Can we show the slide where one particular deity is shown and the parivaram is shown, the retinue is shown? They'll all look alike. Now look at this. This is just an example. Now, for convenience, we have just shown on the right-hand side and the left-hand side the deity. The Chakreshwari or the lord or the leader of that particular place where it is seated will be the brightest, and all the others will look exactly the same, except, look at this, except that they will be, as they go away and further away from the central deity, their brightness is less and their colors are less. That is a parivaram. Saparivara, Sayuda, Shashaktihi, Sadevada, Saparivara, Sasiddhi, Samudra, Sasiddhya, Sayuda, Shashakti, Saparivara, Sambhujida, Sandarpida, Santushta, Sandunamaha. That is what we say. So this is the way it will be arranged. You have to visualize this. If it is a lotus, a petal of the lotus, you must realize that there are hundreds of thousands of deities around the main deity. And this is only one portion of the yantra. Each of them will have different deities. Anima Siddhi will be different. Lagima Siddhi will be different. Or Kameshwari, Bhagamalini, Nityaklinna, Berunda, Vagnivasini, Mahavajreshwari. Each of those will have this same arrangement. We'll stop there and we'll begin there tomorrow, next week.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ayya, for sharing your knowledge about the ever-scared yantras. The knowledge you have shared is a true gift to experience, and we are excited to learn more about the yantras in the upcoming session. Thank you, everyone, for joining us for today's session. At this time, we will hand it over to Vyasanna from Ashtanga Yoga Mandir to begin our yoga session.
Greetings and pranams to Ayya and all the devotees of the Sri Vidya Temple, members of the Ashtanga Yoga Mandir, and all those who are viewing this program via live. As all of you know, every individual works, strives hard to keep them very energetic and enthusiastic. What is the most primary concern in all these greatest rituals, the knowledge, something like yoga, is to always keep an individual very enthusiastic. Enthusiasm is the most primary component. You need to feel enthusiastic. When you feel enthusiastic, your performance will be great. You feel like learning. You feel like exploring. And for this enthusiasm, what happens, there are various factors which diverts and dilutes and disturbs it. Senses play a major role. If the senses are misused, overused, or not used, or abused, then the enthusiasm of an individual also has an impact. So there is a very simple technique which comes under the Dharmology, under the yoga. So when you start activating these locations and centers, you will feel a sense of goodness for your senses. So apart from the organs that we have been doing with the various practices of yoga, but the senses has always to be kept greater. Senses has to be always made enriched. That is what you will see when you take a flower, when you put it as a pushpa. With a mantra, what happens? You feel good. When you see the beautiful glorification and all the beautiful decoration of a deity, now you will see in your temple how beautiful she is made. That gives a great perception to the eyes, to the senses. So whatever the cluttered thoughts are there, what happens? That cluttered thoughts becomes diluted. There is always a difference, if any of you have tried, consuming a prasadam and consuming a fast food. You have a sense of satisfaction, a divinely satisfaction, a graceful satisfaction. You go to a fast food and then you have a pizza or a patties or something like that. Have you ever felt a graceful satisfaction? It's up to you. So this sequence of technique will help you. How to do that? Basically, you just take your right hand, the thumb, place it on your right nostril, and just start activating it for 27 times clockwise, and then anti-clockwise 27 times. Then from the same hand, you take your fourth and the fifth finger, and then slowly start activating it again. Very gently, you don't move, you only start rotating it. The other nostril will continue to do the breathing and the lips are closed. And then you will do anti-clockwise 27. Once you have done that, then you will take your hands in this position, and then you will slowly start activating the right temple and the left temple of the region 27 times. And then you will do anti-clockwise 27 times. And then after that, you will take your palms and then keep it on the side and then start doing 27 times. And then you will do it on the other side 27 times. And then you will keep your palms on the top of the head, Uchasthanathala. And then you will start activating it 27 times. And then if you are comfortable, you will close your ears, or you can keep it as it is. You can keep it like this and do it, or you can close it like this and then do it. Clockwise 27. While you are doing it, sometimes the ears may come out. Then again, you keep it and then you do it on the other side for 27 times. And then after that, you will do the activation in the forehead region. So you will do 27. And then on the other side, 27. And then you will take the fingers and then you will do it like this 27 times. A rotation. So you will see that in the basically, we use it as an 8-step method, but in the yoga thing, we do it like that. Sometimes you will see in something they teach you like this, you bring it like this and you bring it like this, but this is more easier. And you take it up, you do it 27 times, and then you go ahead with the other side for 27 times with normal breathing. Just see whether you have some uneasiness or pain or anything of that nature. And after that, shift your face up and then slowly just embrace 27 times. And once you have completed this whole sequence, do 9 rounds of Brahmari. The length, if it is around 12, is good. So you start like, and then go ahead till 12 and then increase it and then decrease it. Arohanam and Arohanam. So this sequence of practice will help you tremendously to keep the senses fresh and live. Because nowadays we continuously use the mobile phones, laptops. Continuously there are sounds. Continuously we are exposed to different type of dust and smokes and various air pollution. And we also consume different types of food and water and chemicals, various certain things. And then there are thousands and thousands of information, wanted, unwanted, dead, and non-productive thought, always getting into our system. So this is a process of channeling these things, what you need and what you don't need. We'll complete the sessions with the Shanti Mantra. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you.